Welcome back to Velshi and Rule. It is shaping up to be a long, complicated, and very busy December for the president and his obsession, well, it's justified obsession with the Mueller investigation. Here's what the next 2 weeks look like. Today, the special counsel is set to file a sentencing memo on former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, a document detailing not just the lie he pleaded guilty to, but any other uncharged bad action. Remember, he's had that sentencing moved 4 times. Friday will be a very big day. The Mueller team will enter a filing detailing somebody else, Paul Manafort's crimes and lies, in breach of his plea agreement. And a sentencing memo is expected on former Trump personal attorney Michael Cohen, which could widen our view of what investigators have on the Trump campaign. Fired FBI Director James Comey will be testifying on Capitol Hill after some tense negotiations with Congress. Comey agreed to appear behind closed doors after the committee promised to release a transcript within 24 hours. Also coming on Friday, former Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos, you remember him, Coffee Boy, expected to be released from jail after completing his 14-day sentence. And next Wednesday, Michael Cohen will be sentenced. It all sets up a very busy 10 days for the Mueller team and President Trump's Twitter account. And as the special counsel team prepares its sentencing memorandum for Michael Flynn, I want to do a quick recap of who he is and how we got to this point. I know we haven't talked about him in a while. Michael Flynn was a career Army officer. He rose to lieutenant general and was appointed to head the Defense Intelligence Agency by President Obama. But he was ousted in 2014, and he then retired. 1 year later, he was paid $34,000 by Russian state media to give a speech in Moscow, and he attended a dinner seated at a table right near Vladimir Putin. A trip and payment he neglected to mention when he renewed his security clearance in 2016. During the presidential campaign, Flynn was an early and vocal supporter of President Trump, even leading this chant at the Republican National Convention.
Lock her up. That's right. That's right. Lock her up. I'm going to tell you what. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Lock her up. I remember interviewing him in 2016, and I was asking him about Vladimir Putin and how he's treated adversaries and journalists. I think he told me to bite my tongue. And on Election Day 2016, Michael Flynn published an op-ed in The Hill praising the Turkish government. It was later revealed his firm had been paid more than $500,000 by Turkey, that is, the Turkish government. Flynn then registered under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, but it took months to do that. During the transition, Michael Flynn reached out to Russian officials, and he spoke with the Russian ambassador about blocking a UN Security Council vote that was backed by the Obama administration, a serious breach of protocol and contact he would later be accused of lying about. For his service to the campaign, Flynn was hired as National Security Advisor. That's huge, but he was ousted just about a month into the job. The president saying Flynn had lied to the vice president about meetings he had with Russians. Then just over a year ago, Flynn made headlines again, shocking the country as he pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI in the special counsel's investigation, cooperating with the Mueller team as part of his plea. That's a lot. See, you forgot about that guy.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.